Welcome everybody back to your regularly scheduled programming here outside of the tournament. Playing a game here with local fantastic Rebel player Temerity. I am playing the role of the Empire, and he is playing the role of the terrorist regime. Working on kind of an interesting deployment setup here. I've got Corellia and Mustafar both loyal, which is nice. Tem's got a protected Bothawi, a protected Naboo, and then he's also got Moncal loyal too. So he's got some pretty good options here. I've got a pretty good setup, I think, too. So we'll go with a Death Star with 2 stormtroopers under it over in Mandalore, and then kind of my 3 standard fleet deployment. Tim's going to drop people in Ord, so automatically scoring threaten the core if he's got it, and then making it a really unappetizing place to attack. So with 6 troopers there now, it you can imagine going in with Vader or something, and him playing confrontation and having kind of a rough go and losing a leader right off, and then by floating 1 X-wing on top, that threatens to take out 3 TIE fighters. So pretty gross all the way together. I think I consider running secret weapon early and then trying to draw a laser and just moving a Death Star over by itself and then lasering everything, but we'll see what I end up with. Got Mon Mothma bringing Moncals to the game nice and early, so that's fun. And because that card got played, I'm in pretty good shape with a Planetary Conquest and also a Capture, with the idea of grabbing Mothma and then pulling her back. I got a little bit of a bluff going on here where I leave Tarkin on Capture for a while and then swap him out with Tag. It's I don't know if Tim's paying attention or not. If not, it really doesn't matter at all there. But the idea being, if I can wait out, whether or not I wait out the Build Alliance will be the decision to make. Most likely Dodonna's on Build Alliance and Riken's on Sabotage. If Riken's on Build Alliance and Dodonna's on, I guess some 2 intel card there, that'll be a disaster. But Riken's on Sabotage. Because we've got Tag on a card, it makes sense to play it safe with sabotaging Selakami. And then here, I've got a movement, which I can use to, a number of things. I actually think this might be the wrong move, because by moving forces to Celeste, I might be suggesting that I'm on Janice's card to remove Rebel Loyalty. That might push him to go to Ord instead of to Utapau. So I think in hindsight, maybe I should have possibly moved somewhere else, but I really need to get a show of power there too. So kind of has to happen. All right, Dodonna's gonna claim Utapau, and then I'll run Planetary Conquest. Vader just needs to not roll a 0 here. And almost did. All right, 1 success or 2 successes enough to get me there. I'll take it with 3 units. Bring an ATST to try to prevent a revolt and incite rebellion. And then need 4 dice for a capture on Mothma. Yep. All right, so I think really good first turn there. Rebels still got the Moncal with Temporary Alliance, but they did not get a second one. They did get their Speeder and their Naboo build, but did not get Ord. Drew Bespin and Celeste here, and you can see I'm running the probe map on the top left-hand corner. I have a choice between Piet or Veers, and since I've already played Planetary Conquest, that makes it an easy choice there. Rebels grabbing Chirrut, and then deploying. See where 10 goes. Got a Trooping a U-Wing and Bothaway. Building a turret, that's an interesting choice. Means you might be sitting on planetary defense objective. And then I'll go ahead and deploy out here. So I think the concept I'm thinking at the moment is running the Star Destroyers towards the middle of the map. One up in Toydaria, maybe one in Malastare. And then having the assault carriers kind of run around. Tarkin's card's real nice here. I mean, that Planetary Conquest, Capture, Temporary Alliance, and Tarkin's card's like a dream combination there for the Empire. So that ends up playing out really well there. Now, because I played an action card, we're going to be behind a leader unless I get the track them opportunity. So they're definitely going to have an opportunity to go last here. Well, maybe not. That's not true, because I guess I've got a captured Mothma. All right. Opening up with a rescue. So playing Tarkin there doubles as getting an attempt to roll a block, which I roll a 2 and block the rescue. So that's really good here. Yeah, such a good combination, those cards. All right, Tag going about his business, subjugating Naboo. Going to leave an assault carrier behind so I can send the assault carrier to Malastare or Cato. I've got that Star Destroyer that's sitting in Corellia, but it's also got to be able to shift over to Alderaan here. Rebels grabbing, sorting through the infiltrate deck, or the objective deck with infiltrate. And then Alright, Regan setting up with a rapid mobilization. And I've got Vader on Rule by Fear and the Emperor available with movement. So since I have the Star Destroyer in position, there's not too much coming out. I can go ahead and remove loyalty on Naboo, which prevents the rebels from potentially scoring regional aid with a sort of a cheeky grab in Celeste. So Chirrut will grab it over an Ord, and then the Emperor's got to make a decision here on where to go. So since I don't have a laser, I can't really do much with Ord. So instead I'll just cover Cato, looks like. Nope. There we go. Go to Bespin. When in doubt, nope, go to Hoth. Alright, Emperor over to Hoth. So thought process here, cover Hoth, start prepping for raid outposts is sort of the idea. I like to get an early assault carrier dropping off things on remote planets that can sort of be protected or have the potential to be protected. Raid outposts is such a crippling objective if it comes up that oftentimes I like to put the effort into preventing it if possible. Alright, grabbed Ilum for a probe. It feels pretty good. Again, you can see the probe map in the upper left-hand corner and drew a couple of nice diplomacy missions here. So I got a choice between Jabba or Janus. Jabba's card's not really going to do me a whole lot here, but I do have the diplomacy missions. Janus's card might actually be nice if I'm going to attack Ord, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Jabba. Alright, you can see Rebels grab Lando. I've got some deployment to do. So I don't need to cover Utapau, which is nice. So I'll drop the assault carrier in Naboo with the idea of splitting that fleet up a little bit. And then I've got some resources to take out Ord now. All right. One of the things to think about early game that can get out of hand pretty quick, I always like to put extra attention on trying to prevent level 1 objectives from getting scored. There's not a whole lot you can do about level 2 objectives, but level 1 objectives, you can always try to keep those in the back of your mind. So for example, Chirrut just played Trust in the Force to flip Megiddo. So now I've got a situation where I've got Chirrut on Megiddo who has diplomacy skill, right? So even if I go subjugate it with the idea of ruling by fear on top of that, I'm going to have a guy who can block that already. Plus Lando back, it's another person who can block. So I'm going to just overload on diplomacy missions here. I'm going to try to prevent that regional aid from being scored. And we'll just sort of see how we can do it. Opening with an infiltrate. I am imagining attack with Vader, then stack diplomacy on top of Vader to try to flip Ord, if possible. So that's what we'll do. We'll bring Vader in, walk that AT-AT over, probably bring the Death Star too, I would imagine. Bringing the Striker's nice because it, threatens my ability to play the cancel card. So sometimes the rebels won't always play their strongest card in fear that it gets canceled there. But I'll go ahead and I have a choice. I could either go for the capture on Lando here, or I could destroy a ground fighter. And since he's got 6, destroying 1 doesn't necessarily remove dice, but it does make it a little likelier that I'll survive the encounter here. So I have a captured Mothma, so that seems fine to me. If I didn't have a captured leader, I'd probably play the capture card there instead, but we'll just go with it. Alright, so what to play here? We can blow up a troop and have him roll 4 dice instead of 5. That seems pretty good. Could also play the 2 damage card, but there's a reasonable chance he's going to roll a bunch of heals here, so we'll just go with the guarantee. Once I blow up a trooper and he does the same, it'll become 3 dice against 4 black dice. And I've got an AT-AT there too, so this should go well, but if you've seen my other videos, you know that Vader is not always the most reliable person to bring to a dance. Alright, got 3 hits here, that feels pretty good. Lando, the jack of all trades with 2 space, 2 ground, and 1 of every skill set and contingency plan on top of that. Alright, got 1 trooper, 1 AT-AT left. He's got a trooper left here too. Probably play it safe and bombard. Could also flip the combat, and that would probably be okay. Could also block a hit and probably get some value out of that as well. So we'll block a hit, say he can't heal, or he'll say I can't heal. 1 damage, just 1, and blocking 2 damage. All right, and he misses. So we've got a subjugated Ord with a Lando there, but I can probably pull off a rule by fear. Now we'll have to see. Tim could stack sabotage. He could always try to regain the loyalty again with Leia there. See which route he goes here. Yep, so he's definitely playing for regional aid here. He's not hoping to land this sabotage. He likes Reek there to help give him blocking dice. So now he's got 2 alliance dice there. And because I have Tarkin on rule by fear, it only gives me 3 dice to roll. So 3 dice against 2. See if that Sabo was worth it. 3 was not. Okay, I clean that off. And now we've got Leia. And Leia with a build alliance in the same spot. So now we have a 4 against 3. Also not great odds for Temerity there. But really important to get that objective, especially because he knows that I know he's playing for it. So, alright, he flipped it. Now we've got Jabba and the Emperor here. So I've got a couple of choices. I am going to roll Emperor on Chirrut with the idea that if I fail this, I'm going to drop Jabba's card on top of it too. So we're definitely all into this nonsense. So 3-1. All right, so I stripped that. Probably would have been better to try Jabba's, but big investment if I drop it in there and then fail, especially because we're on a build round. So I can play Jabba's card up where Mothma's captured and flip that. I could also grab Loyalty and Bespin and then shut that down. Have a good spot to hide everything in. And instead, I go for blocking the speeder production in Bothaway. Sometimes, I don't know if that was necessarily the right decision or not. I do have a lot of capital ships on the map. I also managed to keep Tem down to 1 capital ship. I think my thought process there is, for those of you who, I think Tem's been on this channel a couple of times too, he has a tendency to score tons of objectives and do a really good job utilizing the army, the rebel army, to maximize what he can get out of them. So here I think it was more important to me from him preventing to build another turret. So use Jabba's card up on Bothaway. Alright, I got Soontir or Proceeding as Planned. So we'll go with Soontir. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. Rebels are picking under the radar right now, and I'm deploying before Tem's put his units out. Because he doesn't really have anywhere he can put his units, because I stripped Chirrut's loyalty out in Megiddo, and then I removed the Bothaway loyalty as well. He can only deploy in the base. So this is usually the time, if you're Empire, to start thinking about Death Star plans a little bit here. If if he ends up deploying that Nebulon in the base, that usually says something different than deploying the Mon Cal in the base. In this instance, he's deploying both in the base, so hard to know exactly what's going on. If the Nebulons go in the base with starfighters, oftentimes it means you've got to plan the assault coming up. If the Calamaris go in the base, sometimes he's planning on attacking out, or thinks you might stumble on it. In this case, those were just the 2 most powerful pieces he had, so that makes total sense to do it. He's got Dodonna on a mission, he's got Lando back, he's got Saw, so we got to think about three fist missions that he could be pulling up here. And so here is one of my classic intel moves. Again, if you've seen other episodes, I like to stack intel missions together if I do them. Oftentimes it results in, for whatever reason, coinciding when I find the rebel base, and then the intel missions are not as valuable anymore. So we'll see if that trend continues. My trend of grabbing probe cards for planets I'm already sitting on has certainly been happening so far. And here we go, opening with an infiltrate, tag heading off to Ryloth. We'll check that first. Probably bring a TIE fighter here just so we can leave it behind, but I guess maybe not. So that leaves Tatooine, Dagobah, Dantooine, Felucia, Dathomir, Kessel, Malastare. Got a lot of options here. And Chirrut running Rogue Squadron Raid. Now I could stop that, except for I'm assuming that Saw is on demolition. So I'm going to hold Vader back to try to block that instead. Although I don't know, maybe not. Maybe if, yeah, who knows. I guess he probably plays Chirrut in Utapau if that was the case. So Piet's just going to mind his own business, head off to Felucia. Felucia's a relatively safe move for Piet because we know the base is not in Yavin. We also know it's not in Hoth, Endor, or Ilum. So got to be a little bit careful about moving the Death Star up. I do want to move to Megiddo for the purposes of finding the base, but I've got, especially with that sabotage and ord now. So in theory, I can move everything to my Guido. I probably lose the Death Star if we get into that sort of fight, but might be worth it. We got a lot of time left to go here. I also have some assault carriers that can scatter about and check some of these central systems here. But seems like I'll go ahead and overcommit to my Guido. Even if the Death Star falls, I should have an opportunity to take out a couple of fighters, and maybe that Moncal too if I have a couple Star Destroyers and some fighters there of my own. Alright, Leia on building an alliance. No rescuing Mothma at the moment. Early captures are certainly a risky thing, but if they work out in your favor, it can be pretty crippling to the rebels there. I'd say so far I'm getting pretty lucky. Drew Planetary Conquest, drew all my diplomacy missions. I mean, it's good. Can't complain about this one. Alright, we're going to go ahead and flip my Guido, make it loyal. That, protects me against public uprising, which sometimes, if you've never taken out a Death Star with public uprising, it's a real good way to make your Imperial friends real angry. Alright, I'm going to run some, going to go ahead and run some intel here. So we'll pull, I guess this has got to work first. 3 dice, and he's got to decide whether or not to commit Lando to this or not. Looks like he passes. And Jabba succeeds. Okay, so we're going to pull 8 off the deck. Now this card's sometimes a double-edged sword because, if it's going to pull out cards that are useful to you, then it means there's more spots that the rebels can rapid to. However, because of plant false leads, I really like it. Alright, so I don't know if you saw there, we took Endor, we took Utapau, and got 3 or 4 total. So not bad, not great. And Lando comes out with an attack over Seleucami. Alright, so here's a look at what's going on here. It means he could be coming from Kashyyyk, Toydaria, or Kessel, if you haven't been paying super close attention to the probe map. And now the decision I need to make is, do I send Soontir in there to try to potentially save the Star Destroyer or cause extra damage to the starfighters? So there is a Nebulon here, and there is a Moncal. So I'm going to bring Soontir out with the idea of I want to try to do as much damage to starfighters as possible. Rebels haven't played too many space cards, so I don't know if they necessarily play their great ones here. Maybe he blocks hits with the transport card, or he can't afford to not kill the Star Destroyer, so he just play the Y-Wing card here regardless. Alright, first card. Swarm Tactics for a damage. He plays the Moncal card, followed up by the Y-Wing card. Alright, makes sense to play the Y-Wing card since I nailed it with Swarm Tactics. So I got 2 on the Star Destroyer. He's got a whole host of things he's rolling here. Okay, Star Destroyer's got 5 or 6 on it. And Fighter's got 2. And Lando's got a couple of rerolls here, 1 of each. So in theory, had I played Overwhelming Presence, I actually would have blocked 2 of those red hits and maybe have a chance to survive here. But instead, we're just going to roll for damage. Now he's blocking red hits here, which is too bad. So the Corvette would have died normally, but instead he actually gets to save it. And then I'll take out the second Y-Wing and the U-Wing with that reroll. So worth it for Soontir? I don't know, probably. I like the idea of, again, killing starfighters, and sometimes those rerolls can make a big difference. Now, Lando retreats. I have the opportunity to play track them here, but I don't have a super powerful follow-up move. So instead, I'm just going to hold track them in reserve. We know the fleet's not doing a hidden fleet rapid mobilization sort of thing. So we will roll for this and try to draw a couple probes. You can see here I'm sort of going with a, almost like a, even though we know where the base is, the idea is to still kind of use a probe strategy in the sense that we want to try to limit the options for where Grant can where Temerity can rapid mobilize to. So I think it doesn't hurt to draw probes even in that situation. So quick glance at the probe map in the top left for available places that can be vacated. And you can see remaining we have Dantooine, Dathomir, Malastare. Now, since we know where the base is and we have Jabba, Yularen is a little bit redundant at that point. I do like the idea of grabbing Gerard, though, for his action card. You can see the Death Star doesn't have any shield bunkers under it. There's enough Rebel starfighters floating around where it makes me nervous, so I'd rather not lose my advantage that I have at the moment if possible. And since I didn't keep any troops in reserve to deploy, I kind of have some limited options for what I can do with this deployment. So I'll drop a couple of starfighters, one up in Bothawui and one over in Mandalore, with the idea of they can get transported out and maybe blockade some things. So a few things to think about. We've got Lando's action card that is potentially going to cause us some grief, unless it's, even if it's undercover, but if it's independent operation, that would be bad. Just a few things to kind of keep in mind there. Also got under the radar for Saw, so probably makes some sense to still have some probes down, but we'll see where we end up on here. It's funny because sometimes watching these games makes me wonder what I was thinking at the time. Like it's real easy to get caught up in emotions when you're playing this game. So all right, we're going to try to do a little bit of loyalty control here, maybe grab some probes, and then it's really important to have enough units available to move around. We've got the risk of Return of the Jedi popping up pretty soon here, level 3 objective. And actually, it feels pretty good that Regan is rapiding early. That means the fleet is stuck in that particular spot. So I'll go ahead and pull a couple of probes just to make sure that if there was a subversion or something that would pop out there. And then Chirrut is now sabotaging the homeworld here. Now, what I should be thinking about is what they're trying to accomplish by that, right? It's a little bit of an oddball move, but I'm so focused on mobilizing my troops in an efficient manner. I think I'm forgetting something important here. So real quick, I won't spoil it. If you're the Imperial player, think about what Chirrut's up to here, right? Why would he be sabotaging Coruscant? And more importantly, why didn't I block it? Well, we just talked about action cards, so we know, Chirrut's got an action card out there still, and because I didn't point it out, the leaders, he passed on taking a leader on the last turn. You can see in the chat there, and he just took an action card. Obviously, Chirrut's action card here. And now with Dodonna landing there too, I'm starting to realize what's going on here. So planning the assault. He does not have Return of the Jedi, so I'm going to go ahead and try a Hail Mary to block this. But I should have done a couple of things differently. So if he succeeds in this roll, which he does, we're now going to have a space combat. He's going to use Chirrut's card here, to destroy the 2 ground units, and the X-Wing card to light up the fighter, right? That's going to result in 2 things. He's going to win a victory over a sabotaged area for seize control, and then he's going to score Heart of the Empire. So I'm going to have a double whammy here, and as everybody probably knows, Heart of the Empire is a tough one to come back on. Now, in a way, I'm a little bit lucky here because I have Soontir's card that I have not used. And because of the harassment of the Rebel base, Tim didn't want to overcommit his troops here. He sees I have a Star Destroyer that I can deploy on Corellia. So he's gonna, but that 2 mission combo there scored him 3 objectives because he'll get Heart of the Empire plus seize control. So, I mean, usually as rebels, it's a great deal if you can get one objective for 1 mission card, but scoring 3 objective points with 1 mission and an action card, pretty brutal here. Now he did, is what it is. So not gonna over lament the point, but anytime you see an unusual move like that, you really want to think about, do you want to block that, even if you're not 100% sure what they're doing. The rebels are doing it for a reason more often than not. All right, but back to our regularly scheduled program. Everybody's favorite plant false leads. Let's see what comes up here. Utapau, Toydaria, Yavin, Dathomir. So I'll pull up the probe in the top left. Cover some items here. Probe map, it's really important to pay attention to. So like Dathomir, I don't have anybody there, but it's important to remember that you did have somebody there, because that way if he moves, or depending on how many probes he draws, you can, add a reminder of whether or not you want to move. Okay, so a couple of things have happened. Did a roll by fear and an R&D. We'll clean up Seleucami here in case he decides to not move the base. But if he does move the base, he has some eligible systems still. So we'll try to remove some loyalty here. I don't love having to do that so early, but it is what it is. He's still got to build alliance down there. And 1 eligible system he could bail to that is not well covered right now is Nalhada. So putting Jabba in Bothui both potentially blocks a build alliance there, and it also, it also removes that loyalty in Nalhada. So if he wants to put that back, he's going to have to spend his mission there to do it. So we're just going to crash in hard. He could go to Bespin if I don't cover that. He could go to Dantooine, which would be a pretty gutsy call if he did that. If he does move to Bespin, we can deploy a Star Destroyer nearby there and uncover it pretty quick. So I don't think that's likely going to be the move. And lucky enough, he didn't have plant false leads. And because none of the cards were on top, we can now mark Dathomir. We know the base isn't there. Now we know it's not in Bespin either. All right. So what do we got here? And we also know it's not in Toydaria. Why? Because he didn't have any of those on top, and he drew them all with plant false leads. So he could be in Kashyyyk, he could be in Dantooine, or he could be in Nalhada. So just plan those moves out with the Empire. A key thing you'll see me make mistakes on when I post those videos here. Oftentimes towards endgame crunches like this, I will not keep enough leaders in reserve. So let's see what I decide to do with missions here. So just strategizing. I know I can cover Bespin with the assault carrier this turn. I know I can cover Dantooine. I know I can cover kind of Kashyyyk with either Malastare or Seleucami, and I know, I can start crashing my ships down onto Nalhada too. So, just some things to think about. Also, I've got to, I now cannot use Soontir's card aggressively. I gotta use it on that transport in Coruscant. Now, the other thing to remember here, you might be thinking, why bring 4 TIE fighters? Well, if he kills one here, although I don't think he has ion cannon left, no. So, in theory, let's say I bring 2 or 1 or whatever, and he throws a hit and run and a hidden fleet, that's going to score him Threaten the Core again. So, Threaten the Core brings him well within the range of ending this very quickly if I'm not careful. So Soontir's got to cover the core for me. Had he brought his capital ships, it would have been harder for me to dislodge, but also would have been harder for him to defend the base. So he's moving everybody out, leaving the turret there. And it's one of the hard things about building turrets is you can't bring it with you like a speeder. So we'll have to see how this all plays out here. Alright, I got 2 leaders on missions. And before I get too carried away with hunting down the base, I just want to try to limit places he can escape to. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 turns potentially. Assume that he's going to score at least once in there. So really we only have 3 moves. So it means the Death Star and those Star Destroyers are out of commission for all intents and purposes. So he's going to go ahead and save Mothma. So where I was going with that is those Star Destroyers, even though they're powerful, can be used to cover places he can vacate to. And now that Plant False Leads is done, we're in pretty good shape. Wookiee Uprising was also used, so we just need to wipe that X-Wing. We don't need to worry about bringing 5 health worth of items on there. Okay, so we're just eliminating escape paths. We know Toydaria's in the bottom of the deck, Bespin's in the bottom of the deck, and Dathomir's in the bottom of the deck. So we got to be a little bit thoughtful about that. And see where we're going here. Doing some infiltrating. And as the Rebels pick, we have 3 moves. We're going to go ahead and conservatively cover Bespin. Again, keep in mind Hidden Fleet. Hidden Fleet is a nightmare in this situation. If he pops open Hidden Fleet, has a rapid mob, moves to Bespin, like a tough situation there. So here he's activated Hidden Fleet. So now he's got the potential to move to Dathomir. Lots of places. We're going to try to throw this off a little bit with a shuffle, with drawn 8 cards here, drawn probes. So we have enough subjugated right now, you can see in the probe map, where we should pull a large number of probes off here, right? And then we can just minimize the opportunity he has to do like a hit and run and the Hidden Fleet sort of combo. So we'll keep an eye on these as they pop across. I see this card get tossed a lot of times, and I really think it's worth bringing up here. So we're at 5 total probes at the moment. Edit's a little bit awkward here. Flipping Dantooine. Here's the probe map in the top left-hand corner. There's still Dathomir. There's still Toydaria, and Lando decides to pass. Okay, that to me says Lando's probably on a Hidden Fleet. And he doesn't have a whole lot of options to Hidden Fleet. He can either go to Toydaria or Dathomir, and because I had movements left, if he Hidden Fleets over to Dathomir, I'll sink him there, and if he Hidden Fleets over to Toydaria, I'll attack him there too. So, grabbing a probe again, just pulling some items. Fun note, we also know his under the radar is at Bothawi at this particular moment. And then here we go with Vader. Just going to cover Toydaria, try to consolidate our forces. And then keeping in mind that I can bring guys over from Malice there if I wanted to. Next round will be to consolidate over here. Now we've still got an action card from Lando, so we have to think about independent operation, right? Next turn, so he could move the the ATSTs from Toydaria, and I could move them over to Bothawui, and then he could attack out at Bothawui. Now I've got track them, which is nice. Also nice that I haven't used that at this point. And now I grab the last 2 probes. So at this point, he's pinned in Nal Hutta. There's no more plant false leads. We know Bothawui's under the radar. And so we just need to think about how to best put ourselves in a position to succeed here. So I'll try to even out the space fleets a little bit. You'll notice I've got the assault carriers in reserve here. He's got a decent force he can attack out with. That's what's deceptive about the Rebels, is 1 Moncal, 1 Corvette, 1 Nebulon, U-Wing. They have lots of firepower there, especially with their cards. So you just gotta be thoughtful about how we do this here. So we'll deploy the AT-AT up in Bothawui and put Tarkin on Interdictor, and then I'll put Soontir on Hunt Them Down in case the invasion does not go very well here. Alright, so Lando back, didn't use a card, Saw back, and Dodonna back, so he's got lots of flexibility here. So let's see what he decides to do. I don't think Interdictor was a very good move here. I think I was... we'll see. Alright, Lando's coming out to do some damage. Just bringing out space. Okay. So we got to think about what space card's going to benefit us the most here. I don't want to play the flip the combat card. Well, and I guess I have to think about Piet. So let's talk about this Piet decision here. If I bring Piet, we then need to think about, do we want him to retreat or not? Right? If he retreats, then I can play track them. Then I can move in from Bothawui with Piet, who's my strongest admiral, because we now have level 3 objectives that we can't risk with the Emperor. So, I thought long and hard about this, and then I decided that I think the best course of action is actually to play the can't retreat card. Now, the idea here is that pins the rebel ships in place, right? If that happens, they can't retreat back, and then I can bring in the AT-AT and other troops from Bothawui, even if I don't have the ATSTs from here. So he's going to start by flipping the combat, and I'll block hits. Now, ideally, I could have picked the flip back card, but if I do that, then he picks the top, right? So better to just take my poison. I'll block hits. And then really what I want is just damage here. And just try to damage things. Get rid of the starfighters. Throw damage on the Corvette. And yeah, the Corvette is probably 2 on each. Well, maybe. We'll see what we do here. So next up, his last card's the Corvette card, so he's going to cancel my card. So if I flip the combat back, he cancels it. Coming up next. But again, the goal here is to make sure he doesn't retreat. So by playing the block hits card, it's kind of a nice conservative play. It blocks 2 of these red hits. So with that, he's currently got 2 TIE fighters toasted and 1 assault carrier damaged. And then I don't have the TIE Fighter card, so maybe better to get the... hard to know. Hard to know. So with this next combat card, he'll have to make the decision on whether or not to cancel a red damage or prevent me from playing Flip the Combat next round with his card. And he'll choose to cancel the damage, which probably makes sense. That Moncal's close enough to I got enough green dice here to cause problems, so let's see how Piet does. Need a nice roll here. And then next round I can flip the combat back, but he's fully loaded again, so if I flip the combat back, he'll likely just flip it back to me again after playing the Moncal card, so it'll be really nice if I can sink that Moncal. Alright, I got 2, 4, 6, and a black. 5 damage on the Moncal, and then maybe if I don't put at least 6 on the Moncal, I'm definitely getting too greedy here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, 6 on the Moncal, 2 on the Nebulon. Nebulon, just think about, I don't know what we're doing there. Nebulon was the right move. If he plays the Nebulon card, he can just remove the damage off of the Corvette, unless he rolls 2 more heals here, which I don't think he'll do. Yeah, I don't think he does. That's right, rolling for damage. Alright, he's got the Assault Carrier sunk. At least 1 damage on the Star Destroyer. And then probably the right move is to take out a Striker, but I don't really know at this point. And again, he can't retreat, right? Not that he would, because the Star Destroyer there brings over the 2 ATSTs, and that's not super great either. So I don't think he retreats in this particular spot in battle right here, but hard to know. All right, gonna flip the combat. He's gonna play probably, well, I don't know what he plays now because the Moncal's dead. Yeah, so he can flip it back to me. But he's gonna select remove damage, and then he's gonna damage up the Star Destroyer here. 2 more. Star Destroyer's got 3 on it. Striker's got 1. And then I need a nice roll here to do some damage. I do not. Nothing. So 1, 2, 3. And then keep in mind he's got remove damage. So he can remove those 2. So I just need to put him on the Nebulon. Had I damaged the Nebulon last turn, it would just be dead this turn. But hard to know, I guess. He could have rolled first. So anyway, enough speculation here. Got 1 more round. Do a damage. I'll block hits. And damage at this point is going to be the most efficient because he's only rolling 1 red dice, so it doesn't do me a whole lot of good to like block hits or anything along that lines. Plus so many green. All right, 2 more on the Star Destroyer, and then let's get a nice roll here. 1, 2. Takes out the Corvette, and then 1 more hit takes out the Nebulon. I think. I actually don't know. Yeah, just take out the Nebulon and damage the Corvette. The Star Destroyer is not looking so good. I got a Striker left. Lando's still here. Again, now he would retreat, I'm sure, but maybe not. Maybe he wouldn't retreat. Alright, 1 more damage. Clear this combat up. It is a lot harder to win as the attacker than it is the defender. If this combat's flipped, it's not even remotely close. The Rebels would crush the Imperials, and that just has to do with flipping that combat back and forth. So now we got a little bit of a challenge here. Since there's no space in Nal Hutta, I can just bring a single Star Destroyer over and just bring all my equipment with me. I'll bring a Striker to threaten the cancel card, and then I can bring all my AT-AT and my 2 ATSTs. Now the ground selection here is a little bit tough because he knows you might play the cancel card, so it's probably not going to be tow cables. But if it's not tow cables, then I could play the cancel card and just say, no card next round, and then no tow cables next round. either way, most likely he deals damage. And if he deals damage, I have a chance to heal it. So flipping the combat is not as important as dealing damage. At least that's kind of my doctrine when it comes to Imperial military. Now, he just went ahead and played Confrontation, which makes sense, because if I play the cancel card, I have to cancel Confrontation, which isn't very good, or I say no card next round, and then he plays Tow Cables anyway. So if you're worried about the Imperials playing the cancel card, play the Confrontation card for sure. All right, I have a great roll here. So I already did 2 to the speeder, deal 2 more to another speeder, and then 4 total damage to damage 3 of the vanguards and 1 troop. If Tim has a bad roll here, it's GG. So let's see what Saw's got in him. He needs heals. And he's got them. All right. 3 damage so far. So the ATSTs are almost smoked. And then he's got 2 heals for 2 vanguards, probably. 1 heal for a speeder, and then he's just going to roll for damage here. See if he can get that last ATST done. Now you might be thinking, do you try to confront tag? Well, we already played Confrontation, so can't really do it at this point. But even if so, I don't think at this stage in the game you mess around with that. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? All right, so Saw rolling 3. And then you can see I don't have any other ground troops on Bothui. So now that the last ATST's been wiped, we can take stock of what's going on. There's a speeder and 4 guys left. Had no heals gotten rolled, I could have just followed up with a hunt them down, which would have been a nice way to end, but was not meant to be. So we still have a fight in here. And let's see what Tim can pull off. So one of the things with the Rebels, man, is they're never out of it. They've got, it seems dire, but they only need basically 2 more objectives to score. And if 2 more objectives score, then we're toast. Even though they've only scored 2 and that Heart of the Empire. So got to be extra careful about what you think they might have. You got to keep an eye on loyalty count. You know, do they have 6 loyalty? Do they have no one left behind? Do you need to be capturing somebody? Just really hard to know. All right, Soontir hopping in, taking out that speeder, so that's nice. Maybe I won't need quite as much to get it done. I roll blanks, but Soontir's got the +2, so he succeeds over Saw, wipes the speeder. So now we got 4 troops left, and I'm still holding on to bombardment, and I've got troops in Toydaria. I got to worry about Lando's card, so I can't just stick everything there. So I'll spread things out a little bit. I'll put the ATSTs in Bothui, and then I'll move some carrier force over to Toydaria, I believe. And now here we are with a mission. So Chirrut running a mission in Geonosis. Hopefully the Emperor can block the attempt to raid factory here. So let's see how this goes.
One with the Force, the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force, the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me.
Chirrut, come back!
I'm with the Force.
And there we go. Emperor with a really nice roll. Chirrut with a giant letdown. Now, game's not over yet, but pretty clearly chasing after that. So I got a couple of things the Rebels can look at here. We just need to make sure they can't sneak off to anywhere by building an alliance by building a shield bunker and some loyalty over there. He can manage to sort of pin me in place. And no blocking there. Okay, that gives him loyalty for that same mission we've tried to been preventing the entire time. So we're going to get a regional aid out, and that puts him one objective away. So if the Emperor had not blocked, that would have been a major issue. Now, it's important to remember Tem gets first move in the next round here. So that could be lead the strike team. That could be public uprising. Could be another incite rebellion. You got, so you gotta try to deploy accordingly. So essentially, I'm just trying to put things on areas that can be raided, right? Corellia, not a super easy target because you have to make it unloyal, or you have to make it subjugated first before you can pull up uprising or whatever. And since Plan the Assault's already been played, can't really get anything up to up anywhere. So putting the Star Destroyer somewhere probably should be floating over somewhere more useful. And for those of you who aren't paying super close attention, I want everybody to take a look at Celeste right now. So spending all that time deploying, and I spent a lot of time, there were a lot of edits on that one. I just left Celeste with a single Stormtrooper on there. So knowing exactly what's probably coming, we got 2 guys on a strength mission and 2 on a loyalty mission. So best to keep everybody behind the block. And somehow I left Celeste wide open for Raid Factory. So here we go. Got lead the strike team coming out with Chirrut and Saw. They got 3 full dice and 2 little dice. And I got Vader to block. So let's see how this works. The good news is there's only 3 guys they can bring, and one of them is going to be a Vanguard, so maybe there's a chance here. So Vader for the win. 1, 2, 3. Chirrut and Saw. 2. I probably should have saved Chirrut and Saw's video for that there. So after a couple of lucky blocks there, ended up making it out. So Tem surrenders, which makes sense. I had kind of overwhelming force up in Nal Hutta. So Rebels in Nal Hutta, Imperial victory on turn 8, 9 rep by the Rebels, and God, almost 10. So please like this video and subscribe, and find us on Discord. See you next week.